Hello and welcome to our Street Soccer United podcast, another episode with me, Keith Mabbott, founder and CEO of the Street Soccer Foundation. On today's show, I'm really pleased to be speaking with Simon Pollard, Director of Simple Life. Simon, thank you very much indeed for joining us today on the Street Soccer United podcast. To kick things off with you, firstly, for the benefit of our listeners, our supporters and the young people we help through the foundation, please kindly introduce yourself.
Hi Keith, Simon here. As you said, Director of Simple Life. My mission is to ultimately get people outside, enjoy the outside, and then ultimately be happier people.
Now, for the purpose of this interview, I'd like to focus on the past 5 years, if I may, Simon. I believe it was back in 2015 when you formed Simple Life. What made you start your own business and why Simple Life?
Yeah, at the risk of repeating myself, it is all about getting people outside to enjoy and understand the outside. Enjoy and understand the outside in their own houses, which is the garden design, and enjoy and understand and have an empathy for the countryside, which is where the walks and talks come in.
And how did you actually get the business going from scratch? I think it's probably fair to say that many people listening into this may well be wishing that they had their own business or want to start their own business, and many will say they can't because they don't have the money. How did you go about doing it, and what advice could you offer?
Well, to a certain extent, it's just the traditional methods. I had an email list from a past business which I utilised. I also put out a lot of flyers, use social media, and of course all those platforms are free unless you actually pay for an advert, but also just getting out and networking, talking to people. But most importantly, of using all these things, it's about getting out and actually being passionate about what you do. It's about believing it, having a clear message. That's the most important thing.
So being passionate and having a clear message, superb advice. So you now design wildlife friendly gardens, but I want to go back to 2017 when you released your book, The 3-Year Pond. It talks about business failure and your divorce, the darker and more challenging times that you had, to then the more uplifting insight into your success and the happiness that you now get from what you do and who you spend your time with. Firstly, how and why did the book itself come about? How did you actually get it published?
I guess ultimately it's about having a story that you think will help other people in a desperate attempt, if you like, to stop them making the mistakes that you've made, so that you go into whatever situation you go into informed. I think that's the main driving passion for the book, but also, and I think more important than all the things that you mentioned, I hope that what the book gets across is that there's always some way, somewhere, that you can find peace and that you can find answers for yourself. And for me, that's the outdoors. You know, when I was a kid, when the world was wrong, that was where I went. And I would stay there until I could work it out. I lost that as a teenager, and it took me a while again as an adult to find that. But that's I think the most important. How did I get it published? I actually went on a how to write a book and publish a book course. The idea that I had for the book at the time went away, and then I worked out the idea for the next book. And I'm fortunate, I guess, in the fact those people who've read it tell me it's pretty good. So that's it primarily, and there's lots of ways now to get a book and get it out there. Currently I'm using Kindle Direct Publishing and got a new one out very, very shortly, but that's another story.
Thank you, Simon. And in connection with your book and some of the things that you talk about, what do you think is the best way for anyone to find true happiness and fulfillment?
True happiness and fulfillment? Actually allow yourself to find it. And that's harder than you might think. Actually finding a way of stopping your thoughts controlling you. Finding a way of existing in now. Letting yesterday go and realising that you can't do anything about tomorrow. So it's just letting yourself find it.
Allow yourself to find happiness and exist in the now and let yesterday go. I really, really like that, Simon. Again, in your book, you also, however, though, talk about your divorce and becoming a single parent. When you look back at that time, the hardship that you were going through, are you able to pinpoint on any specific events or decisions or reasons as to what pulled you through and gave you a purpose and direction to turn your life around?
That one's easy. Didn't actually realise it myself. But when I'd hit the bottom of the bottom, if you like, and Gillian, who had been beating me up to go to ABC for ages, dragged me along, and that was pretty cool. But the real one was when I went to the MMS, another big plug for Mr. Lawrence, and came out the other side of that one, and Gillian said the first time that she'd actually seen me, if you like, the whole world changed when I suddenly realised that there was a way out of the mess that I got myself into. And from there on in, I think pretty much everything was as positive as it can be. Still had a few ups and downs, but that was the point.
Brilliant. And you referenced there ABC and MMS. Just for clarity on that, ABC is ABC Networks, a networking group that operates all across Kent, and the MMS is the Millionaire Mindset course run by Ash Lawrence, who also supports our foundation on mindset coaching for the benefit of the young people coming through our academy program. He's an incredible man, and certainly we'll put a link out to Ash as well. But coming back to you, Simon, I know you talk about taking responsibility for every part of your life, including the consequences of everything that you do in connection with self-fulfillment. How are you personally coping at the moment through the pandemic we're all faced with currently, and what advice would you offer our listeners to keep positive and headstrong?
Again, that one's easy. I think this lockdown has been the most amazing opportunity that's ever been given to us. I've never had such a long period of time where I have got very few outgoings, and I haven't had to have at least one eye, ear, part of my brain, whatever else, on making money. So I've looked at thinking outside the box. I've reinvented the way the business is going to work. I've put together a project with 2 other people, which is really exciting. And apart from obviously those restrictions of seeing family and friends and things like that, I think this has been fantastic. I have loved every moment. I see it as an opportunity. And I am definitely, my business is definitely coming out way stronger than we went in. Absolute, no doubt, it's an opportunity.
So in essence then, you've got the mindset yourself that takes this on as viewing the situation as an opportunity, and I love that. It's again really good steer for many people out there. Of course, we can remain wholly sensitive to the current situation and keep safe and sensible by following the government guidelines, but as much as possible, try and focus on what you can be doing with this time. Seek out the opportunities where they either present themselves or where you can go out and create them for yourself. And that's by doing, as you said earlier, Simon, isn't it? You know, reaching out to people, having conversations, connecting, putting yourself out there and being a part of the discussion. Brilliant advice. And so finally, Simon, to bring an end to today's Street Soccer United podcast interview, and it's been great speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time today. The final question we always ask is, what's the best advice you've ever been given and by who?
The best bit of advice that I think anyone can ever give anyone is to just remember there are no limits. Maybe it's that child thing. What is it that children have that we don't? If they can imagine it, it can happen. You watch any child and you can see that. That's the most important advice. Always remember, if you can imagine it, it can happen. And your responsibility is only to make it happen. Have big ideas and follow them. Never stop following them. Who told me? Loads of people. I've read it. Everyone who's ever cared about me, cared about my dreams, cared about my ambitions. And do you know what? Just occasionally I tell it to myself too. Thank you very much, Keith. It's been an absolute pleasure. especially as you've obviously done your homework. And yeah, good luck to you. Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Brilliant, Simon. Thank you very much indeed. What a great way to finish. The advice there are no limits. If you can imagine it, it can happen. Then go out and make it happen. Have big ideas and go after them. There you go. I mean, those kinds of words are really what resonate with me, because it's a lot about what we do through the Street Soccer Foundation. You know, we try and help young people who may have kind of limiting beliefs and maybe a lot of self-doubt. You know, it's resetting the mindset, having that belief in yourself and your ability, and go after it. Get some goals down, share them with people that really care about you and want to see you do well and be happy and succeed. They then can help hold you accountable to those goals, and then you go after them and achieve on them. And the best bit, it's not actually even in the achieving of those goals, it's the person that you then become. So you might set a goal now today for 2 months' time, and in 2 months' time, when you achieve that goal, it's the person that you then are in 2 months' time. That's the real achievement. But there you go. Wonderful discussion. Thank you, Simon. You've listened today to Simon Pollard, Director of The Simple Life. Please be sure to tune in again tomorrow for our next podcast interview.